Can you?
Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome to today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety, then look for the Team Anxiety Team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing, pause this video, go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get in today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today.
Guys, welcome to Pete vs. Anxiety. I have a very special guest today. He is a former offensive lineman who played for the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. He's also a college standout from the University of Wisconsin. My guest also today is a recovering addict and alcoholic with over 31 years of sobriety and began working through his complex PTSD in 2022. Please welcome in Glen Darby. How you doing today, Glen?
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here so much, Glen. I just think your insight to what it was like to be at a professional level to where now, your insights are just amazing for these younger gentlemen that you're working with now. Glen does a lot of work with the younger kids in the football and stuff like that too. So Glen's basically being able to show these young gentlemen how to properly play the game and different things that he learned basically.
Yes, sir. And when we were kids, we had visions of what we wanted to be, and all of us have different role models. We have different caregivers, and we have different messages that get put into our head. And I think the one thing that I had when I was growing up, and I have recently written a book about it, and it is on Amazon, called I'm blanking on it. From the line to the light. There you go. I'm sorry. So, anyways, I wrote about the fact that I basically got instilled these negative messages that I wasn't good enough, and I worked my way through anger all the way through my childhood, into college, into the NFL, and basically that was what was motivating me, was the anger from not being enough and trying to prove my worth and prove who I was and where I was going to go. And it fueled my fire. But it also fueled a lot of negative behaviors. I believe I became an alcoholic at a very young age. I started drinking pretty heavily at the age of 13, and all the way through high school, all the way through college, in the NFL. When I got in the NFL, I started doing a lot of painkillers, and basically pretty much ruined my life. I got to the point of suicide attempts twice. Didn't want to live anymore. Didn't want anything to do with life. I walked away from God at the age of 19. I thought, there is a God. He just doesn't give a shit about me. And that was what fueled all of my next relationships, was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And it's just been in the last, obviously 31 years of sobriety. I went to a lot of meetings, did a lot of work on myself, saw a lot of counselors. I'm only here through the grace of God, Pete. It's that's the only reason I'm here. And he has put it on my heart very heavy to share my story and share who and what has happened with me, in order to try and help others, whether they're kids, football players, regular kids, I'm here to help anyone.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome though. Like, you're doing work with the other kids, sharing your own story. Now, do you tell some of the older kids some of your experiences and things like that? I don't know what age range you work with. Do you work with like the younger adults to the teenagers level?
Well, I work with all ages.
Okay.
For 26 years, I was a football coach.
Yeah.
High school, I did coach some middle school. I did coach some college kids. So age doesn't really play a factor. Some of the younger kids, I don't really go into great detail with some of my struggles, but once you get into the 15, 16, 17 on up, They've all heard it.
Oh, okay.
They all know it, and so me being able to share some of my struggles and pains, etc., tend to help them feel a little bit better about themselves or their own situations.
Well, yeah, too, and you've been there. You've been in the big game where a lot of these guys are dreaming of going. Like I've been there. I played professionally. I know what it's like. I know what it's like on that level, the pressures, all that stuff you dealt with, man. It's you have to perform at a high level, and I think the advancements have changed since where you were to where they're now, man. They've made a lot of changes,
Oh
and
yeah.
all that stuff you guys have done, it was crazy though. Like we were talking for a second, you played in the years with Joe Montana and some of these other guys that are just like a lot of us like saw as idols, man. But you're like you see them on the opposite side of the field, and it's just like okay, that's the opposite team, though. But
Well,
that
and I remember at a young age walking onto the field and practicing. We practiced against the Bears at training camp, and so I got to know Walter Payton,
yeah,
Jim McMahon,
what?
Refrigerator Perry,
Yeah,
Richard Dent, and
God, that's so
and the
awesome.
team I was on had some great players too, obviously, and going into the Cowboy Stadium and watching Deion Sanders, run right by you, and it was there were some really cool things going on in the NFL.
Yeah,
College, we went to a bowl game. I got to experience the Big Ten, going
yeah,
into Michigan, Ohio State.
yeah,
Uh, you know, that stuff you can't take away, and I really am grateful today for those experiences, and it's a pretty amazing feeling to be out in a stadium with these guys you're talking about that you see
yeah.
all the time, and 70,000 screaming fans. It's pretty damn cool.
Oh, the adrenaline rush alone has to be
Yeah.
amazing for that. But that's so cool though, because when you start telling kids like that, a lot of these younger guys know who some of these players are and go, "Damn, oh wow, coach got to play with these guys. Like that's pretty cool."
Oh yeah, and
So
I tell the kids all the time, because they at this age still know what the Icky Shuffle was, and I said, yeah, I played in an all-star game with Icky Woods and Thurman Thomas and some of those
yeah,
famous guys.
God,
So yeah, I'm blessed to have been able to be in that arena.
yeah, that's so cool. So as you were work, okay, so let's talk about your complex PTSD. What was it like going through all that? I mean, did you have it when your NFL was your PTSD really present there? Is it something after that it really when it started really showing up?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because when I was in high school, well, actually even in middle school, my parents took me to some counselors because I had a serious anger problem. I mean, I was
Oh,
the type
okay.
of guy who, I'd get so mad I'd punch a hole in the wall with my fist and then deny it. Hit my sister all the time. I would, get in fights with my brother. I was always in fights in school. Um, the middle school principal out in Montana, we had corporal punishment. He literally wrote with a black permanent marker my name on his paddle because he said he hit my ass so much with it. So I had this serious anger problem. So all the way through different stages in my life, I would have to go to anger management. Some of
Yeah,
it was because of my ex-wives would be, like, you need help. And yes,
yeah,
I did. I could not control my rage. And I had thought, okay, this is anger problem. So I'd go to anger management, learn how to cope with that. And it didn't work. I didn't feel good about getting angry. I didn't feel good about the things that I did when I was angry, the things I said when I was angry, but there was nothing out there. And I've been married and divorced 3 times, and my last wife got on me hard to go to anger management because and the stuff that she was doing was making me very upset. But I would blow up, and so
yeah,
I'm like, okay, I need to go, and I went to a guy. I'm forever grateful for the rest of my life now that I met this guy.
yeah,
And we were sitting in his office, and he said, Glenn, I don't think you have an anger problem. He said, I think your anger is very justified. And I kind of looked at him. I said, well, then why in the hell am I blown up like I am? He goes, you don't have an anger problem. You got a trauma problem. And
yeah,
I said, what the hell is that? And he said, so for the last about 10 years or so, Counselors have had clients that are in their office that present PTSD like symptoms, but they weren't in the war. They didn't get in a major, wreck or accident. They didn't get raped or molested. They didn't have some of those things that causes PTSD. So these counselors started working together saying, why are we getting people with the, similar symptoms? And that's where complex PTS arose. And basically what it is, Pete, is when we are kids, we get these messages pounded into our heads. My dad, who had his own demons, his own trauma and everything that was unhealed, he was impossible to be good enough. There was nothing I did.
Yeah.
I could get to the point where I was good enough. So I was raised with this thought pattern that I'm not good enough. So since I'm not good enough, I may as well drink more than everybody else. Since I'm not good enough, I'm going to go beat the shit out of these guys on the football field. Since I'm not good enough, I'm going to get paddled by the principal and I don't really care. I think it's funny. All these things that a normal mental health kid is not going to do to themselves. You're not going to set yourself up for these like major crazy things. And I lived on the edge. I remember one time riding my motorcycle at 140 miles an hour. Telephone poles are flying by like fence posts. And I'm going as fast as that thing can go. And I didn't care whether I lived or not, and it was this intense rage, this intense feeling. And so this counselor that I saw started going through all the PTSD, and what the symptoms are, what the reasons, what the causes, and basically this message that was a lie, because obviously we were born in the image of God and we're not junk. We're not people who are not good enough. He has a purpose for all of us.
Yeah.
The problem was that purpose got knocked out of our head and was basically said, you suck. Well, that causes anxiety, it causes depression, all of that stuff. And for me, my solution became sex and alcohol.
Yeah.
And those two things were everything I wanted. I wanted the best drunk. I wanted the best sex because that made me feel good, made me feel like I was enough. And bam, that's what was my answer. Well, obviously, those two things do not create good, healthy behaviors. And so, yeah, I literally was sober for 25 years and was still having these anger episodes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, once I really delved into it, I did the EMDR. I did all these different. I've got a thing where I call it the harmony touch, and basically you rub your hand right in between right in here.
Yeah.
I would put pictures on my TV or on my computer and my iPad, and every morning I'd get up and I would look at that picture and I would just rub right here, and I would think back at this peaceful time. And the picture was a picture of me of the mountain that I loved when I was a kid, and I would picture myself as a kid, and I'd be like, okay. Oh, I'd hear the wind blowing by. I'd hear my heartbeat. I would hear that, I was happy.
Yeah.
I was happy in that time. And so what happens is when I start to feel agitated, I immediately go to this, because I did that for like 6 months. Every single morning, I would sit and look at that picture and go down and just keep doing this. Well, now that I do this, it immediately takes me to that place and it says, you were just fine. Everything happened after that is what's causing your anxiety right now. So don't let the past determine what's going on right now. Let's get into reality and let's learn what is happening right now at this moment. And usually, like 95% of the time, you realize, oh, it's not a big deal. This is from the past. So as soon as I can stop letting from the past dictate what I do today, now I feel better. I have literally not had an anger episode in almost 5 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I feel you on that though. When I was a kid, I had a lot of anger issues too, and a lot of it really amplified when my mom abandoned me at 10. I didn't realize the after effects of what was going to happen because she was very narcissistic. And, she just really controlling, things like that, real physically abusive at times. Never will admit that any of these things happen, of course,
Oh,
because that's what they
absolutely
do.
not. They're not capable of it. That's
Right.
that's the one thing that I learned too is,
Yeah.
these caregivers, they weren't capable of being empathetic. They weren't capable of validating your feelings. They
Yeah.
were so wounded themselves. That's why at later in my life, I ended up starting to really have a very shallow relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
I would talk about the weather. I'd talk about football. I would never talk about anything from the past.
Yeah.
As soon as that happened, he'd get defensive. All of a sudden, bam, we're back into that same cycle again.
Yeah.
And it just, I at that time I had a counselor who said, Glenn, they're not capable.
Yeah.
They're so wounded. You got to move on from that, and they're not your parents anymore. They did their job. You're an adult. Don't go back there with them. It doesn't help anything.
Let me ask you a question though. Was it hard for you to accept like that you're not going to get any forgiveness from him, like from everything he did and things like? Because that's where I'm at right now. It's like,
Pete, I'm going to tell you this. I hope that this will resonate with you the way it did with me. I was meeting with a guy named Dr. Richard Marks, and we were going through. He was actually one of my marriage counselors, and he ended up becoming one of my mentors. He looked at me and he said, Glenn, who's your father? And I said, okay, his name. And he goes, okay. So he's your father, he's your dad. And I said, absolutely. He goes, so what is your parents' role? And I said, well, for me, I think it's, get me to be an adult. Like my two daughters, my goal and my role was to get them to be able to go to college if they wanted to, get a job if they wanted to, become an independent person if they wanted, whatever they wanted to do. That was my job. And he goes, okay, good. When does that end? I'm like, I guess when I moved out of the house. He goes, yeah. He goes, so your parents stopped being your parents at that age. Now, who are your parents? And I'm like, they're still my parents. I don't have anyone else. And he kept going on and on. Well, about 12 years ago, I turned my life over to Jesus and have been following, and working hard for about 12 years to understand and get all the negative stuff that I had prior to that about religion, and really I got a good relationship with him and God. And he looked at me and he goes, your dad is no longer your father. He did his job. He's done. Why do you keep needing to prove yourself to your earthly father? And I'm like, I don't know. My dad was dead. I mean, he had died like 10 or 12 years ago. And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, you have a father who loves you unconditionally. You don't need that earthly father anymore. Yeah. And he looked up and he goes, who's your father? And I went like this. And I'm like, oh my God, this feeling came over me, Pete, that was like, I don't have to prove nothing to nobody. God loves me exactly the way I am.
Exactly.
I don't need to change anything. I can be the goofy person that I am, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I'm telling you, that was, for me, that was like a revelation that was unbelievable, that now all of a sudden, I no longer have to prove myself as a worthy adult.
Yeah.
When I date women, because I'm single, when I go on dates, I'm not out to prove anything. I'm out to be who I am. If they like who I am, great. If not, I don't care.
Right.
When I'm in business transactions or anything I do, if you want the stuff I got, great. If you don't, I don't care. I mean, This stuff helped me, and it's helped a lot of people because, I do a lot of social media posts on positivity, mindset, going over the fact that we are a new creation under Jesus when we go to him. We don't have to do the Old Testament anymore. It's been fulfilled. It's done. We don't have any shame, any guilt, these crazy ass laws and rules that everyone talks about. That's not God. God loves us exactly. He loves you more than anything. And so the more you can delve into and grasp the fact that you are a loved, perfect human being trying to fulfill what it is that God tells you that you are, man, that's where the happiness and joy is.
I accepted religion before I even started this show, and ever since then, it's just like everything falls into place, and it's great because like people don't understand. Like you can talk to him anytime; he's always listening. You know, on the way home from work, I'll talk to him. Have a rough day, just kind of talk to him about it. You know, and it's great. Like I always had these misconceptions because you like all these people you interact with. They have always said she's like, oh well, everything you do is a sin. It's like, but Jesus didn't really do it like that, though. He didn't
No.
look at you like that. He was just happy with doing, you know, he accepted everybody. Like, you know, all these people that try and class, oh, well, Jesus didn't like, how do you know? You're not Jesus. You didn't know what the hell he was thinking.
Well,
He
that's
liked
the biggest
everybody.
thing right there. That's the biggest thing right there is so many people think they know, and he tells you right
Exactly.
in the Bible, you don't know. He goes,
Exactly.
you don't know, and we're going to sin till the day we die. Now, what I've learned is the more I focus on Jesus and what Jesus would do, the less I sin, and the
Yeah.
less sin becomes important to me. So it's not like we quit sinning. That's impossible. What it is we now know that we're forgiven. We don't have to have that guilt and shame of, oh my
Right.
God, I did something terrible. You know, I have a passion with the swear words. I don't, you know, and it's like, okay, I don't think Jesus is going to love me less because I use the F bomb quite a bit. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
that's not who he is. That's who religion is. Religion
Yeah.
tells us those
Yeah.
things. And I think, you know, Pete, the most beautiful thing is I've started this reading this. I got an app that has these daily readings that, oh, they help me so much because it's all about love. It's all
Yeah.
about, you know, the most important commandments is to love God and love our neighbors as ourselves. And it doesn't say what our neighbors are. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Exactly.
say whether they're transgendered, gay, black, white,
Yeah.
Indian, you know, it doesn't matter. They could be the president of the United States down to the nursery school teacher. It's everybody.
Yeah.
We love all of God's children, and all of the people living on this earth are God's children. Um, you know,
No, I
and I,
agree. I agree. I agree. I think the message really is everyone love everyone. That's what me and my guest we I just talked to prior to you. We were talking about that same thing. He was like, you know, everyone just love everyone. That's the problem. Why have we gotten so far away from this? We're too quick to hate on everything we don't know. Especially, you know, the transgender thing. It's just
oh, when
God.
that's a big one for me because
You
I
know,
hear people
it's
hating on it.
crazy.
Yeah, and I'll tell people this all the time. So you walk into a church, right? And there's a gentleman and there's a lady, good looking couple, and they're successful. They're highly thought of at the church, and they're up at the front of the church in the pews, and they're not married. And you know they're having sex
Hmm.
and not married. And that's one of the sins in the Bible. So you look, and so then I sit and wonder and I go, okay. And then right across the aisle, one or two or whatever
Yeah.
transgender walks into the same church, same pew, and everybody's like, get them out of here. They're sinners. You know what? Their sin's no different than that couple that's sitting right on the other side of the aisle. And you know what? They need love as much, if not more, than anyone else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure.
not up to me. So here's where I really like to say that I don't understand transgender. I have never in my life thought I was the wrong uh, gender. I've never even considered being homosexual. That's not ever entered my mind at all.
Yeah.
But who am I to say why these people choose what they're doing? You know,
There you go. There you know what I mean? It's
that's
like, who am
God's
I to
job.
say these things? I
That's
agree.
God's job. And I love the movie The Shack. And when the dude's going through the caves and wisdom comes up to him and he says the guy that killed his daughter needs to pay for it. And he goes, and she goes, okay, here's God's chair right here. You need to go sit up in it because you're now being God, right? And he's like, no, this is justice. And she goes, you're being God. We're not God. We
Yeah.
don't make those choices about what happens to other people. And
Yeah.
that's their road that, I don't understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't think that it's something that I would ever consider, but I still love them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And
I agree.
there's people that I think are complete assholes. I still love them, but I don't hang out with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to be around them. And, you know, I have a couple friends that are transgendered and they don't bother me.
Exactly. My brother's transgender, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm used to it. It doesn't affect me at all. Like it trips some people out, man. They get like real weird about it. Oh, really? I'm like, it's just my brother. I ain't worried about it. Like it don't matter to me. Whatever he does,
I
man,
think,
it's his
I,
business.
I think those people are definitely, they're concerned with themselves. You know,
Yeah.
usually when you get so adamant about something about somebody else, well, you better look in the mirror
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you're really talking about yourself and your lack of self-esteem or your lack of who you are as a person
Yeah.
is being triggered by these people that
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny to listen to him get upset, and I'm just like, okay, well, that's cool, because it doesn't really affect me any. Like I said, I've been his biggest supporter since he ever transitioned. It was just like, I totally understand your thought process, but I'm here. You're still family to me. And
oh
when he told me that he was gay, he was just like, okay, cool. What about it? I mean, like I didn't like. I'm not judging him differently. I already knew. I saw the signs of what. I knew what was going on. I just didn't ask you about it because I didn't want you to feel uncomfortable about it. Like,
right?
I figured he'll come to me and talk to me when it's ready. Go ahead, and it always makes me laugh when people get so offended. I'm like, I don't know what you're so offended about. I mean, they're not doing anything to bother you. Like everybody's too worried about what everybody else is doing, and it's like, if anything, they go through more struggles than anybody else because you're
Oh,
constantly attacking them on all fronts, and it's horrible. It's like,
one of my mom's friends said to her, and this was powerful. He said to her, goes, you know, Ellen, do you think I woke up one day and said, I want to be gay? In this society, do you think that's what I woke up and said, that's what I want to be?
yeah,
And it was like, wow, think about that. All the negativity, all the stuff that comes at a person that's gay, why would they choose that purposely? You know, I mean, there's something else going on there. And that's, like I said, that's not for me to determine or,
yeah,
you know, like I definitely, when I'm around an alcoholic or a drug addict, I can easily make assumptions or give them direction because I was there. I know
hmm,
exactly what. For me to say anything about a gay or a transgender person is ridiculous because I know
yeah.
nothing about it. All I
No,
know is
I
they're
agree.
human beings that's going through whatever they're going through, no different than me, and I don't need to look at them. I
Any
mean, I'm not
differently,
gonna.
yeah,
I don't think I would like be able to help them.
yeah,
If it came to alcohol and drugs, I could, or
yeah.
complex PTSD, I could definitely, you know, give my experience.
Yeah, but
Uh,
at least you're open minded about it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You're just kind of like,
that's,
listen, I
and
may not
that's the thing.
understand what your choice is, but respect it. That's cool. Hey, listen, that's what you chose to do. Hey, more power to you. Like, I'm not going to stop you in any way possible,
Right.
and things like that too. So, I do have a question though for you.
Yeah.
When did you become a mental health advocate? Because now you have to remember now what I'm thinking. It was like the '90s was way that we looked at mental health then versus now has been drastically changed. So, at
It's
what
interesting.
point was it that you changed? You decided like this is something you're real strong about.
Um, I don't know how long you got, but I can tell you in a short version.
Yeah.
I was in the NFL. There was a psychologist that came through, and he asked all the players, "Would any of you like a free testing to find out your personality?" And I was like, I got nothing else to do. Sure, I'll do it.
All right.
Well, I went through a whole battery of tests. And when we got done, he looked at me. I went into his office and he said, Glenn, you are not an NFL player. And I looked at him. I said, I got a contract to prove you otherwise. He goes, no, no, no. I know you're an NFL player, but he goes, your makeup is not such that people would think that you would be a good NFL player. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. And he goes, your makeup is that you're going to help others. You're going to be a part of being a police officer, a teacher, this or that. And he had all these things. And I'm like, I don't really believe you. So I walked out of that meeting thinking nothing of it.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I'm sober. I get a job working at a residential treatment center with conduct disorder and gang kids, boys, all high school age, middle school age. And about 2 years into that, I'm working and I'm driving to work in a piece of crap car. it's really cold out. I've got holes in the floorboards. It's like, and I'm driving to work. The first year I went to work there, I made less in a year than I made in a week in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I'm driving to this job, and all of a sudden I realized, I'm actually really happy. I love going to work. And I remembered what that guy said, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, because
Well,
you're working with all the younger boys and the gang members and things like that
yep.
too.
So I'm going through this, and I'm working my way up into the organization, and now I've actually went to becoming a principal, and I built a school for boys, and I'm watching the autism spectrum become more relevant in all the kids that are growing up. It's starting to become less about conduct and behavior disorders and more about mental health and autism and spectrum stuff and manic depressive, and they called it all kinds of things, ADHD. I mean, you can hang your hat on all kinds of these things. And I think one of the things that happens is we overuse and over medicate many, 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 many kids at an early age. And that started probably in the 90s, late 90s. And, into the 2000s, now all of a sudden you go into every meeting. I'd go into IEP meetings, and the first thing the parents and the teachers are saying, the kid needs to be on drugs. He needs to be on medication. And to me, that was like the worst thing you could do for them, because they never learned anything about their behaviors. The reason why they medicated them is because the adults couldn't handle them.
Exactly.
And so that went on for a while, and it got into around 2008, 2009, kind of right after there was some major political stuff that was happening, and the money started to change. Treatment centers started to close their doors. So now all these like residential places and places for the kids that were more behavior problems had to start switching their whole modality into mental health, serious mental health. And what I found with the mental health of today and, the last probably 15 years is they're dangerous. I mean, they are seriously at young ages, they are dangerous. I mean, they will do things to kill people. They will do things to kill animals. They're more sociopathic. I firmly believe it's coming from the increased strength of drugs. The amount of alcohol that is acceptable in our society is wrecking our kids. You can blame the vaccines and you can blame all kinds of other things, but why is nobody looking into the fact that of all this meth and heroin and ecstasy and all these major drugs that people are taking, it's screwing up the kids? And that's causing more. But then you take the amount of single parents and the lack of discipline or control of their kids, and then they rely on the school systems to control their kids, and that's almost impossible. There's a lack of control over our kids, and that's causing mental health, in my opinion. And I think the serious mental health is a culmination of our sins of the United States being we're a society that we can get whatever we want, whenever we want, however we want. And there's a lack of work ethic. There's a lack of discipline. There's a lack of a lot of things that magnify mental health. And
I agree. I think the work ethic thing is real too, because what is it recently? You've seen those videos over the past years, the kid that was like, oh, I worked 4 hours at Starbucks. It was like, you only work 4 hours, dude. What the hell are you talking about? There's people like, I work like 12-hour days. Like, you're working 4 hours. Like, huh?
Yeah.
But I think that, it's a lot of it too. Is a lot of these single parents, they're always working so much. They're never home, and things like that.
Think about it. I mean, let's just say somebody, and I ran a business for a while that I no longer run. And the hardest part about the business was getting employees to show up to work.
Yeah.
And I actually literally went to the $15 an hour before any other person in my industry did.
Yeah.
I put together a package where I said, okay, you can start at $15 an hour. Every 60 days, we'll have a review. If the review is good, I'll give you $1 raise up until $25 an hour.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. I had one person get to $22 an hour. She was awesome. And she would have gotten to 25 if I would have still been open. But here's the problem. Even at $25 an hour, how can you get to work? How can you have an apartment to live in? How can you pay for food, pay for your bills? In today's society, nobody can do that. You cannot live on that amount of money unless you find a real shithole place to live, or live with like 20 other people. And that's not a lifestyle people want. So I can understand why these people are really struggling to go to work for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, because man, what are they going to buy with that? I mean, it's really hard to make it in our society because everything's so damn expensive.
It's crazy, man. You're working to be broke, basically, is how I feel some
Exactly.
days. And it's just like, it doesn't make any sense.
And I think that's what, and I mean, I don't want to get political, but I think that's what those billionaires' agenda is to get us as poor as we can. Then they can do whatever they want, and they can take all the money themselves.
You know, that's funny, because that's the conversation me and the Darren Allen just had. Darren Ellie and I just had right before I got him with you, is that we were talking a little bit about that. He was like, they're basically trying to control you by doing just that. They're putting you in a constant state of fear and things like that and it's the truth, though. I mean, think about it. Like they complain about upping wages, but they're like, oh, it costs you pennies on the dollar to increase the wages for people to get to something that's livable.
It's become so obvious that I cannot believe the amount of people in our country still believe the shit. It's not
right.
It's not about left against right. It's about rich.
It's more about fear mongering now. It's just
It's about rich against the poor, and pretty soon middle class is going to be poor. Yeah. And it's not going to be 50 years from now. It's going to be probably 10 years from now that our middle class will be very, very not able to make it.
Well, I had a guest on. It's funny you say the middle class. He's actually an expert in burnout, and he was saying that he met with a lot of these top 500 companies, and he told them, if you don't change the way that you are handling your employees, that you won't be here in 10 years. So in 10 years, some of those companies may not even still be there, because the way they treat their people, like Amazon's always been, a lot of people tell you Amazon mills through their people like that. They'll just keep cycling through people. It's like, but what happens when nobody else starts showing up? You know what I'm saying? Like you get through so many people, and then people are just finally like, fuck it, we're done with you. You're not going to go anywhere, because you're burning out people in an alarming rate. And then you're wondering why they're not coming to work, because they feel burnt out. You got them stressed out. You're constantly having a state of agitation, things like that. And it's just, it's so crazy, though, because like I said, he was meeting with these people and like, hey, listen, you can do some simple changes. That's it. And they're like, oh, no, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. It working. He was okay. Listen, mark my words, in 5 to 10 years, when you're no longer here, remember that we had this meeting here, and it's just, it's insane.
A friend of mine went over to China, and he viewed a aluminum extrusion plant that was state of the art, crazy good. And they had hundreds of employees. This company literally bought a house for every one of their employees. They got to live in those houses for free. Well, it's part of their job, part of their package. Yeah. They didn't make a whole ton of money per hour, but they had a house. They had all their health care included. They had enough money to feed their 3 or 4 kids, like a family of 5.
Yeah.
They had enough money to buy a little car that could get them around, or they could use public transportation. He said these employees were so happy. They were so stress-free. They would talk about how they don't work to live. They live to work. I mean, they don't live to work. They work to live.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to work crazy hours. They had plenty of recreational things that they could do that the company actually funded. And what the company basically did was said, we're going to make our employees as happy as we possibly can.
Yeah.
By giving them everything they need. And that's all I think the majority of our country is. They don't understand what they need, and what they need is not very much. And that's where, when you start looking at the Bible and getting into the biblical part, back in the day, Jesus walked the earth. There were 6 political parties. He didn't align with one of them. He said, follow me. So when you follow Jesus, he will take care of all your needs. He will provide everything that you need to make it in this world. So we don't need to look for all the crazy stuff that is being shoved down our throats. Oh, you need this, you need that.
Oh, yeah.
You electric car, you need this, you need, it's like you get bombarded with all that. You don't need it, and you don't need it to be happy. And I think a company, if they did that in America, I think they would be super successful.
Yeah.
People would move from other states to go live. Like, I know lots of people that are struggling, like you said, barely making it. If they knew they had a good, comfortable place to live, they had all their health care taken care of, they could feed their kids, they could be in a marriage and not have to worry about both people working 60 hours a week and never being around kids.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they'd have as many employees as they would need, and they would be happy going to work every day.
Oh, I guarantee it. Trust me. Sign me up. I'd be the first one to go. Frick.
Right.
I do this as well. Well, I work a full-time job, and then I do this too, depending on how many interviews I do per week and things like that. It could range, but I love this. I love doing this, but I hate my job. I just I just don't agree with certain things they do. Like, they always tell that element of, oh, we're a family here, but where's the family element, dude? We're like a dysfunctional family. Let's get it right. We're like a dysfunctional family. And nobody can communicate. The sad part is, like, nobody communicates, but it's like we have this. You could pick up a phone, text me, and tell me something, and you don't tell me. And it's like, oh, well, I told somebody else to tell you. Like, that's the problem. Clearly, this person isn't delivering messages, and it's just like every day you go in, it's like you're just like, oh God, what is going to go wrong next? And it's just crazy because it's like, I don't get it. It's like you want to talk about a family, but then it's like you start promoting this element, and then people come into this. And they start realizing, and then they leave, and the turnover rates go up, and they're like, well, I wonder what happened. Well, because they realize that you lied to them in the beginning. You said it's like a family here, but they're not stupid. They come in and start seeing how everybody else is, look, how everybody acts, everybody does things, things that people say, all these things people are paying attention to when you're coming into a place for the first time. Like, you're watching, like, okay, well, what's so great about this place versus somewhere else I go to? And you'll hear people saying certain things. Like, when I came in, I had met the most negative person ever, but I literally affect my opinion. I'm like, listen, I understand. I know what the situation was before I came in. Is that you guys have been stressed out. You don't have enough people. You've been working shorthanded. Like, I get you're upset. Like, I could see that, but I'm not going to let it affect me, though. But not everybody has that same mindset. They come in and they're just like, well, And then the other one that made me laugh is they said something about Mental Health Awareness Month. I was like, y'all don't talk about any of this stuff. What are you talking about? One email, and that's all you saw. It's like, oh, wow, congratulations. You made an email. Do you want a ribbon or something about it? Where's the conversation after that point? It's like, it doesn't make sense for a lot of these companies. They all want to talk about it, but then it's like when you want to ask them about it, then they're like, okay, well, we're done talking about it. Let's sweep it under the rug now. Well, it'll worry about it itself at a later time. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work like that with mental health, man. Like, people need help.
I think a lot of people are scared to talk about it.
Yes, exactly. I think you're 100% correct when you say that.
The repercussions of hurting somebody's feelings, etc.
I don't think it's that so much. I think with one person I talked to, she said she was afraid that someone would find out what her innermost thoughts were. She's like, I was like, hey, listen, if you're having trouble, go talk to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, just talk to them, get a little idea, get an idea what it is you're dealing with right now, so you know how to better attack this situation.
Yeah. And that would go back to what I was going to say earlier is, what's the definition of family, and what's the definition of mental health, and what's the definition of something that's a deep, dark secret to one person? Because, as I learned in AA early on, when you're sharing some of those innermost thoughts with a bunch of other people and you find out they all have the same thoughts you did, you go, oh, I thought I was the only one that had those crazy ass thoughts.
Yeah.
And you start to feel like you're included. And that's where a family, if I look at what a definition of a family is, it's a group of people that are trying to live this life the best they can and support each other the best they can.
Exactly. Unfortunately,
most families do the exact opposite. They tear each other apart, and they don't support each other.
Yes.
And again, that's why a lot of people will say, I didn't pick my family. I can pick my friends. Well, then make sure you pick your friends really good. And define what a friendship is. Because I learned this a little while ago, that I look at this right here, my little personal bubble, if you want, is my club. It's like any other club, a club with a cover charge. This cover charge protects me. If you don't come at me and pay the cover charge, I don't let you into my inner
Yeah,
space. And my
exactly.
cover charge is honesty, goodwill, empathy, and humility. If you don't have those four things, you're not in this club. You're out there. And that's helped me so much, whether it's mental health, whether it's addiction, whether it's just anybody trying to get into my life. I'm very I'm very much limited on who I let in. They have to prove to me they have those four things before
Yeah,
I
you know, and essentially you're setting boundaries, which a lot of people don't do
exactly
that, Glenn. That's the thing. Like
exactly.
people are afraid to do that because then people say, "Oh, you're being selfish." No, I'm telling you exactly
No,
what I'm going to tolerate. These are X, Y, and Z. You don't like them. See you later. You know that
and
kind of
you
thing
and you
too.
can't learn them in a week. I mean,
Yeah,
when I always joke about getting into a couple of my marriages. We basically were in bed sleeping together as like a couple in the first
yeah,
week. We didn't know each other. I mean, it's
yeah,
impossible to know somebody in that first week. So no wonder we didn't make it, because
yeah.
all of a sudden, all of our character defects and the things that are wrong with us, the other person's like, who the hell
You know,
is
it
that?
also goes to that phrase that it's like you don't know somebody until you start living with them, because then you see how the other half lives, kind of thing too. And it's interesting because me and my wife, we knew each other about a year before we got married.
Nice.
And it's been great since then, like I said. But the difference I think is between me and other relationships I have is that me and her, we communicate a lot about everything. Like we'll
Yeah,
talk about every single thing. If something's wrong, we'll have those honest conversations. But like when I mean honest conversation, like you're being real with each other. Now they may say something you don't like, but I don't take it as a personal attack. It's her
exactly.
just telling her this is what she sees and this is what I see, and then we compare thought notes a little bit and see where we're at, on things. We may not always see eye to eye on things, which is fine, it happens. But how you disagree about it is different. Like you're having an actual disagreement. Okay, well, I don't agree with your stance on this. This is what don't take it as you're attacking one another, because I think that's where people take it too far, is that they start like getting it's like a nitpicking fest. Oh, well, I'm going to pick up these things that you do. I don't like these things. Okay, so like that's not the point of the conversation. The point of having an honest conversation with your partner is that way you guys are on the same level. Okay, I'm upset about these things that you did, and I'm upset. You guys are coming to a better understanding about what exactly is going on. And I think that too many people don't have the conversation, because that's what it goes to. It goes to, okay, well, now we're going to attack each other and start saying, oh, I don't like things. They're saying nasty things about each other. When that was never the intention of this conversation in the first place. It was just being honest with each other about the things that you feel about. And I had dealt with a narcissist for 15 years, and when I met my wife, she was very understanding, because she had a real good understanding of mental health itself, though. So she understood a lot of the stuff I dealt with, which is a big change for me, because I had to learn that a lot of things I used to do for 15 years, I don't have to do with her. And she'll constantly call me out about it too, man. She busts my balls all day about it. And I'll get upset, but at the end of the day, I know she's doing it from a place of love. She's just like, hey, listen, you got to realize you can't continue to do these behaviors. And she'll tell you straight out. She's not even nice about it either. She gets real rough about it. But that's the way I understand things, though, and everybody's different, guys. Anybody listening, it's everybody's a little different. But at the end of the day, it's not that she's trying to attack me. She's trying to help me understand that, listen, you don't need to do these behaviors anymore. I am not that same person. I know you were with them for 15 years. They did so much. Understand that now you are now with a different person. You're in a safe space now. You don't have to worry about these things. I understand what you're dealing with, and and things like that, and all that other kind of things like that. And it's been great. Like it's been a real great. Like we have these honest conversations, and we get right back where we need to be. And she's the reason I accepted religion too. Eventually, it was just like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. What the heck? Let's go for it. Because I was like, what else do I got to lose at this point? And ever since then, the greatest thing ever. It's just everything is just falling into place. I have this show, I have the
that's
podcast
beautiful.
network I'm a part of, things like that just kept falling into place. And then, I started doing a little more deeper dive into, like Eastern medicine, like energy healing and stuff like that too. So I started discovering things as I went on and with the show, and everybody I meet, I was taking away different things from different people, and I have people come and share their own stories too. And I've heard some wild stories, and if we're at like 200 episodes, I think now, give or take. I may be a little short of that, but like I've heard so many different stories and seen so many different things that at this point it doesn't shock me anymore, really honestly, for a lot of things. But
I
it's like everybody's story matters. So it's the thing. And I pitched this show to a couple people that are not on with the normal site I use. I use a site called Podmatch to get a lot of my guests, but a lot of people I come across on Instagram, it's just I see your post and I'm like, hey, listen, I run a mental health podcast. I'd love to know your story behind these posts you're making. And one woman, she was standoffish at first, and she goes, "Why? Why do you care?" Because your story matters. At the end of the day, somebody's going to hear your story and go, "Okay, well, that makes sense to me." And she said, yeah, she's going to be on the show. She's got a real interesting story coming. But, that's usually how I approach it. Like, I approach everybody. And, and some people I'm shocked that are big mental health advocates that I've had on the show too, because I was just like, hey, this is a long shot. Let me just shoot you a message, see what happens. And most of the time I get responses. Sometimes I don't, but it's worth it though at the end of the day, because I'm like, I want to know more about your story. Like, you're posting some pretty cringy stuff. Like, what happened?
Right.
They'll hint at little stuff like their trauma and stuff. Like, I'm like, would you be willing to come talk about it? I said, this is a safe space. No one will judge you. It'll be just me and you. Usually, sometimes I'm live recording episodes. It just depends, depending on how serious the story is. It usually just close recording, just the two of us. That way they can talk about it. If they feel okay after the recording, if they're right, if they want it to still go, I'll still post the video and things. And, stuff like that. If they want me to edit something out, I can edit stuff out. You know what I mean? I respect people's boundaries 100%. I let them know before we even start that you let me know if there's something we don't want to talk about. Like, I'll literally take notes and keep notes of what it is you want me to talk about and stay away from it. And we'll avoid that subject, But it's always interesting every time you hit record, because you never know what people are going to tell you next. I've had some shockers on this one. I've had a Columbine shooting survivor come on here, and she told me she was literally close enough to see the guy's whites of his eyes of one of the shooters. That's how close she was. But I didn't know any of this before we hit record. And I was like, this is crazy. So when it comes to this topic of mental health, dude, it'll blow your mind, the things you find out about people.
I agree. Yeah. One of the things that, you watch, like you were talking about you and your wife, and I watch it in society today. It's like the right versus the left. And
yeah.
What ends up happening, I think, is because human nature is to compete. We are to try, we were born competitors, and you got to fight to survive, and you got to fight to be your place in your family. You got to fight to be the guy in whatever class you're in. And so what ends up happening is, instead of listening and trying to find out what's really going on with the person, we're in a competition.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with me when I would get triggered from my trauma. I would become very loud.
Yeah.
I would start yelling my points. You're not listening.
Yeah.
You don't hear what I'm saying. And they're like cringing, going, because I'm a big dude, and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to get hurt. And I've never hurt anyone, but I know it's scary, because I am a big guy. And when I used to get rageful, it was scary. I mean, literally, that's what got me into the NFL was, when you get in that rage craziness, you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So when I learned what was causing the triggers and what I was trying to get out of the relationships, I didn't have to yell anymore.
Right.
And it was beautiful. And I didn't have to compete anymore. I didn't have to win. I don't, today, if I talk to somebody in a political or a mental health or a addiction issue, I don't have to win. I don't have to get my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't have to have you agree with my opinion. It's an opinion.
Exactly.
It may be a fact for me because it's very factual what happened in my situation. It might not be a factual situation in the other person's place. So you don't need to argue, and you don't need to fight, and you don't need to win. You need to, like you said, communicate. And that's beautiful that you and your wife are able to do that, because that's the majority of the reason why people get divorced, is because they can't, number one, accept the other person for who they are. They need to change them. Most people go into a marriage loving the person, but realizing that they really want to change a bunch of parts about them. And once we get married, I'm going to change him. I'm going to make him not be like that. Well, no, you are who you are, and you either accept it or you don't. You either love the person where they're at or you don't. And so it's kind of like when I used to hire staff, I would tell them, I'm just going to be honest with you. If you either are going to work in this field and be good at it, or you're not.
Right.
You're not going to come into this field and learn how to do it. You either have it or you don't. You can either empathize with these kids that are about to spit in your face, or you can't.
Yeah.
It's just, they spit in your face. You're going to take it as they're horrible human beings, when in reality, they are reacting to their trauma. I didn't know it was trauma at the time. I used to say it was their from where they came from. And I would say they're doing it because they're scared to death. They think that, they're losing control. And so the only thing they can do is spit at you to try and keep you away. There was a kid we had that was in our residential facility, and he used to, when he got put in a timeout room, he would literally take a poop and spread the poop all over the walls. Well, I come to find out, everyone's like, oh, that's gross. Yeah, and it was, but why? Well, we had a really cool counselor that knew a lot about a lot. And he said, you know what that normally is? It's a kid who has been sexually molested will do that to try and keep the predators away. And they're thinking that you guys are predators because you've locked him up, and he wants you to stay away. So he does that to keep you away. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So once you can get, like you said earlier in the show, you get an open mind. If you can open your damn mind and put yourself maybe not in their shoes, but at least understand where those shoes came from.
Yeah.
And understand, like there was another kid that we had that he used to do, he was one of those guys that liked to open up his jacket and show off his little weenie. And, he thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And he would do it all over the place, in the public, wherever we were.
Oh, no.
Well, when you read his file, he was born by a woman who was a prostitute, and she would do her tricks on the couch while the little boy was watching porn on TV.
Oh, yeah, makes sense then. Yeah.
If you think of your own kid and you think of how important it is for them to get love, to have a safe place, think about that. Those guys that were paying his mom, they weren't treating her very nice, I can guarantee you. So he had to hear all that and hear his mom go through all that and hear all the sexual noise and watching the porn. And of course he's going to show his little weenie off. I mean, he doesn't know any better.
Exactly.
And unfortunately the kid, he never was able to get into the society because he was so damaged. But, once you learn where they're coming from, you don't hate them anymore. You don't dislike them anymore. There's so many beautiful stories about mothers who have forgiven the criminals that killed their kid.
Yeah.
And you go, wow. And it's powerful. That's what Jesus did. And that's why I love Jesus so much, is, when you really get into the Bible and follow exactly what he did and what he says, and you try to live like that, it's just beautiful.
All right.
I mean,
I agree.
Amazing.
I agree 100% with you. I think a lot of people listen to too many things. I think that they should experience it for themselves. Even read the Bible itself. You'd be amazed with the things that you'll find out in there.
Yeah.
And, stuff like that too. So well, as we get ready to start wrapping up, Glenn, I wanted to thank you for coming, man. This is awesome. I loved having you. I think it's great. I think what you're doing is fantastic because, I think if we start at like I said, if we start at a young age, I think we can help these young gentlemen thrive better in society, especially with the rates of suicide being 80% of them being males, 50% of us make up the population. The way I tell people I look at it is that there in 5 friends in your group, 3 of those friends won't be there.
Yeah.
And maybe more. And it's all because, we don't talk about these things as males. And, what you're doing is so powerful because you're showing these young gentlemen, hey, listen, I may be 6'6" and I'm this big, large frame, but I can talk about my feelings with you. You can understand exactly what I've been through. And I think what you're doing is you're teaching them how to, that it's okay to talk about these things. And we need more people like you doing that, man. I appreciate it. I really do.
Well, and again, I want to throw in there, really teaching kids to advocate for themselves.
Definitely.
That's what it's all about.
I think it's amazing what you're doing, man. The work you're doing is great. Keep it going, man. I love exactly what you're doing. I think you're doing way more for these young gentlemen, and and they're going to be stronger men later on because you were there for them, and you didn't give up on them either. Like you said, some of these kids are going to spit in your face and do these other things, but at the end of the day, you're understanding where it's coming from, and that's so great, man. It really is. So as we start closing out, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you if they want to reach out and say, like, hey, where's the best place for us to reach out to Glenn? If they want to say, Glenn, I love what you're doing, or they want to know more, or they know somebody that may need some help, and you can help them out.
Well, my website is glendarby.com, so you can definitely go there. I am very active on TikTok. You can go, my name, Coach Glenn Derby, and Facebook. I know I'm almost at the max for friends, but you can always follow me there. Instagram, I've got Glenn Derby there too. So pretty much most of the social media channels. I do speak. I'll do either 20-minute speeches, or I can do the hour signature talk and it's mostly on my story. My book is on Amazon. You can just type in my name, and it's getting good reviews. It's just been out for like 2 weeks. I've already sold like 200 and some copies. So
that's awesome. I'll definitely make sure to add that in the show notes down below. Everything for you guys.
Putting together a training program, an educational training program. So it'll be a video series with workbooks. And my whole goal is to help people with this CPTSD. It's hard to say, but
it is
complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's a game changer. So I want to get this message out to as many people as I can, that there is help, there is hope. You can change your life, even as an older man as myself. You don't have to, be young and whatever. You can change your life at any point that you want to. I love all you guys. I love Pete. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Me on here, and I really appreciate it. And I've had a good time.
Definitely, I appreciate it, Glenn. And guys, I'm Pete for Anxiety. I'm on TikTok all the way down to X. I'm on Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio, guys. And I always say it costs nothing, absolutely nothing. It can be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do could save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete for Anxiety, signing off, saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health